It's February and time for Tech Talk. Last month we got in a little bit of trouble opening up some big topics that we didn't have enough time to expand on. So this month we're going to look a little bit more closely into net neutrality, some of our security threats, and some disorders caused by our mobile devices and addictions. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Tech Talk. So you got the rundown. So
yeah,
I guess
you got the short list.
Yeah, the number one.
Yep.
It's been a big topic of conversation since the election, and net neutrality has not been necessarily taken away, but it's being looked into very heavily. Right.
Yep.
We try not to look at the political side of some of our issues.
Right. But exactly what does that mean to the everyday consumer, and what does it mean?
Sure. Federal Communications is responsible now for the governance of our internet communications and our telecommunications industries, radio and on. So during former administrations, they decided that we needed to have a way to guarantee that the internet itself stayed neutral in terms of its ability to deliver its packets of information to each of the consumers, from content provider through the carriers to the internet service providers that bring it to your devices. And that seemed like a good idea at the time, especially back when the internet was first founded and created by the research institutions. The military needed its own for guaranteed security and delivery, so they built their own network. But today, we have seen our networks get clogged with a lot of traffic.
Tons. From
content providers. And the big ones, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Videos, the music providers, and so many more. And so the wisdom of our folks in Washington was to do away with net neutrality. And today that actually goes into effect, and there is a period of time where they are open to comment and reviewing whether or not they're going to continue on with this.
And I've heard both sides of it, that all this is not going to be fair, and the other one was, well, before net neutrality, back in the 90s and early 2000s, it wasn't broken. Everybody had decent service, so what could go wrong?
Well, yeah, that's it's such an interesting topic.
What does net neutrality mean?
I mean, so we were talking earlier.
Some analogies.
So yeah, let's talk about that. The way we
historical analogies.
Yeah, go ahead.
How about the railroads?
Okay.
When the railroads were founded, certain people got preferential treatment for hauling certain types of loads.
Yeah.
Certain types of loads.
Certain.
Whether it's steel, lumber, oil, whatever. And there was created an Interstate Commerce Commission, and they decided that you're going to pay by tonnage and mileage. So they made it a common carrier.
Right.
Our U.S. Postal Service is created on a common carrier model, where if you're going to send book rate, your books, by its weight, is going to go from point A to point B, so you're paying for the distance, paying for the weight, but they're not going to say that books from the Rio Grande Library cost any more than books that are being delivered from the Kindle or Amazon bookstore or your other sources.
Yeah.
Making things equal is what allows you to create your business model so that you're being treated the same as everybody else.
Right.
Okay? So under the abolishment of net neutrality, what could happen, and if we could have the second graphic, that'd be a little bit more helpful. There could be a pay-to-play tiered service. That's great. So that you could say, for your internet delivery to your home, you're going to get your Facebook, you're going to get Twitter, and you're going to get your email or your messages at a certain rate delivered. But they could charge you extra for delivery of those things the more and more different services you subscribe to.
Well, that's sort of like what the satellite service does for me.
Yeah,
I got
sort of like
different
picking
channels.
different
But do you
channels.
want that? Do you want that for the internet?
Yeah.
The internet was not created that way. It was created pretty much equal.
Yeah.
So if you are needing to do big business, then you build your network and you buy your access to those carriers, your connections, large enough to handle your business traffic.
Yep.
That there's not a penalty or extra fee being charged for having yours preferred over your neighbor who has the same size connection. Why should my business that delivers media get any type of difference than his or yours? And what they're looking at is whether or not that actually hurts the freedom and spirit that the internet was created for. Researchers that put up their information so that we can share that research content.
Right.
Are they going to have to pay so that you can find it if your internet search gets to it?
Right.
Now, net neutrality is not about searches, is it? Isn't it
No,
more
it's
about
not.
traffic?
It's about traffic.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
about traffic.
So, I mean, if
The spinning
Vimeo,
wheel goes on forever.
if Vimeo gets less hits than, or traffic than Netflix, shouldn't Netflix pay more for the traffic?
They're paying for their connection.
yeah.
They're paying for the commodity transport of their packets, the bytes, megabytes of traffic. But they're not being charged extra just for the privilege of having that on there, based upon the fact that, I'm Netflix or I'm Vimeo or
Yeah.
somebody else. It should be handled the same as long as you are getting to the highway.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a highway model, should one carrier on the highway have to pay more to use the highway than another carrier with the same size truck?
It's
It's
just
hard
the
to get your
amount
head
of-
around it.
Right.
Yeah, it
now,
really
does
is.
this mean
It's-
anything to the person, because the end user, would the end user, say a guy in New York City, pay anything different than the guy in Hills of West Virginia?
Think of it as toll roads. Everybody
Yeah.
gets on the toll road, and cars are charged one thing, trucks are charged another. But should Chevys pay more than Fords?
Probably.
Well, that's a good thing. It's instead of cars versus trucks, it's brands versus brands. And
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same commodity.
Yes. And how many is going to get on the road at one time?
And does the toll commission have the right to charge its customers
Right.
that differential rate? In the end, the customers pay and the providers make more and more money for their stockholders.
Yeah.
And the internet was based upon something completely different. We need to kind of,
It was communist.
Right.
well, there's not
Everybody
as much,
gets the same thing.
Yeah.
there's not as much competition.
Right.
There really isn't, because if I live in a certain area, there's only certain ways that I'm going to be able to gain that access.
But
Is that good enough for our viewers today?
I think
yeah.
that's fairly clear.
Yeah. Obviously. Well, yeah. It's clear as mud.
Until we see what happens if
Sure.
this thing goes through.
But aren't we going to make that more and more a problem by doing all more cloud service? And then I'll leave it alone.
Because we
The
need
more cloud service that we implement, the more things that's going to get clogged up, the more people that's going to say, "Oh, I want that service more and more."
Again, you have to get your head around
Yeah.
the difference of it. If you and I are going out and providing a service, and you're buying, your connection this big, and I'm buying my connection this big, and they're the same, we should be getting the same type
thing.
of service.
Yeah.
If somebody's hitting my system a little bit harder and I need to build more computers, that's at my cost. That's what I do to make my business more competitive than yours.
Right.
But the common carrier out here shouldn't penalize me over you or you over me
Right.
for trying to use that
Two different services.
distribution.
Yeah.
And
Now,
the customer shouldn't have to pay just to get your product faster or
Faster.
equal than mine.
Yeah.
Now, my other issue, which is a big thing, is privacy. Do the carriers or ISPs have to monitor your traffic to tell, say like what channels you get and charge you per that? Because my traffic is kind of my business.
Well, it kind of is, but
not
it's not
my private business.
It's also beginning to be everybody else's business too.
Right.
Yeah.
Stay tuned in March
Yeah.
for a discussion on privacy.
Privacy issues, yeah. Because guess what? It's not there anymore.
Well, to be honest, all the devices that take care of the traffic on the internet know exactly where it's coming from, where it's going to, and what it contains inside those little packet capsules.
Right. But does it have to be reported?
That's the difference.
Right.
But we can, with our devices on our network, say that students can do whatever they want and staff can't do social networking or do this. They can't go out to job search boards and look for other jobs during business hours.
During business hours, yeah.
We can do that with the technology that exists, firewalls or packet inspection devices. That doesn't make it right, and you have to have policies that say that your business or your institution has the right to go through and take it to that level.
And being a college, we have open pipes. It's not like an elementary school where you got block stuff.
But as evidenced
elementary schools are like
by
China.
the news, the fake news, and things in Washington, yes, the people that are out there have the ability to do, inspection at the deepest level of every communication mode that exists. Radio waves were easier to intercept, but now they can look at anything and they can backtrack it.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
All right, the next.
Meltdowns.
Okay.
I'm going to have a meltdown.
We're about
Meltdown
to have a
inspector.
meltdown, yeah.
Meltdown and Spectre were two things that popped up in the news based on about internet security, and they were so subtle that it dropped out of the news cycle because it's really heavy stuff.
Yes,
and if we can go to this, these are the two graphics. Meltdown obviously is the one on your left, and Spectre is the evil-looking ghost figure. But the next graphic kind of
like
helps
Pac-Man.
us out a little bit with
attitude.
that. This has to do with the actual way that our chips inside our systems know what they are doing and then what they can do while they're idle.
Yeah.
And somebody, the maldoers were able to go through and they were able to figure out that there's enough clock cycles in a processor chip where they can predict a little bit about what they may have to do next.
Right.
And so what they do is they say, I might want to do this or do that.
Is this what you're looking at?
Yeah. And this is about all we have to look at this. But, there's architecture in the design of that chip that says, I'm going to take this thought process, this calculation, and I'm going to put it over here in memory or in cache.
Yep.
And I might do this next,
Yep.
or I'm waiting for a keystroke.
Yeah.
And what they did was they figured out that they can actually read some of these other memory locations that aren't being used, time how long it takes to get that information, and steal the data off of that memory system, off that cache. Think of
Is that like reading your RAM?
Yeah.
reading your RAM.
Sort of.
You're supposed to be protected. So if I have two web browser tabs open, and I'm going to the health, I'm going to go to, follow my health, and I'm going to the bank, and then I'm going off to, someplace else, like, looking up for some, cheap music.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, one browser window can read what's in the other browser window. Let me explain this after break. We'd like to take a break midterm, so stay tuned. Don't touch that dial, and we'll be right back. Where we're talking about Meltdown and Spectre, and we're not talking about 007 or just having a really bad day. We're talking about vulnerabilities that are in the designs of the chips. And, we have seen semiconductor chips and central processing chips in our lifetime, and they have come a long way, but we don't know exactly what happens in assembly language and what happens in that design. But they realize that there's a flaw, and they're able to see that if you run a certain instruction, that the memory and the cache of the computer can actually be read when it's not supposed to be. So the analogy again was to have multiple browser windows, and in one window you've got your health information, your banking information, something else, and then all of a sudden you go off to this other site, a little recreation, and something goes wrong. Something from that website delivers a JavaScript that runs, and then all of a sudden it's looking into things that are not supposed to be outside that browser window. Probably shouldn't be run at all.
Right.
And your information could be leaked.
Who's doing this?
Bad people.
From about anywhere, probably.
From
from
an intellectual standpoint, technical standpoint, there are people that are going out there looking to see if the things are safe, whether they deliver the way they're supposed to, whether it can be broken, just from a science standpoint.
Right.
Other people do it to see if they can commit acts of high treason, and to really do, cyber crimes.
Yeah. And
now,
just to think about that, one of those browser windows that Kingsley was talking about could have social security numbers in it, or credit card information, or things like that. So
I've got my PayPal open here.
Yeah.
And
we've seen big hacks. And in the past we've talked about Equifax and all of the information that was lost. And the list goes on and on. But when you find out that months later, well, we didn't tell you everything that was lost.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, how many shoes do you have? Is it an octopus? And they're going to keep dropping more and more shoes.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to hear that. But when you find out that the design and architecture of those chips has a fundamental flaw that's common to 80 or 90% of all of our devices, whether they're at home, it says, okay, can it be stopped? And what's it going to take for us to redesign things that are safe? And I think that's when it dropped off the news cycle, because it was just a little bit too much for everybody to get their head around.
Well, I think
and is there anything a person can do to protect yourself?
When they come out with patches, you put out the patches.
Okay, and buying a new computer.
And the big discussion is, this is so serious, do you just go out and patch, or do you actually have test systems so that you're running the patch on your test environment before you put it into your production environment? And what could possibly go wrong in a patch?
Oh, right.
Everything can go wrong in a patch.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed like a good idea before we took down the bank.
Yeah. And to answer your question, what you said was just go buy a new computer. Well, those computers have been on the shelves, so they're flawed already too.
They don't know yet.
They don't make a new computer that doesn't do this, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you'll see a sticker on it that says "Meltdown Inspector Free."
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's been updated or something. Things like that.
Can I go back to FBLO, DSAD?
Sure.
Fear of being left out.
Oh, okay.
Device separation, anxiety disorder.
Oh yeah, we talked about that last time.
I just dropped it on you guys, and Patrick said, "Oh, we're going to have to come back to that in February." And so, guess what? February's here.
Well,
Yeah, the February's a month of love, so
there you go.
we don't want to be left out.
We don't want to be. And as you can see, we have them all right in front of us.
Yeah.
They're all attached.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
If you take a group of people with their cell phones and you make them put them all upside down on the table.
Yep.
And you give them all something like a word search puzzle. Yeah, and they're doing that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And you plant one of those devices in there and you have it ring.
Yeah.
And you observe what happens to the people that are in that circle. What you'll find is that they all of a sudden have this very anxious preoccupation. They can't concentrate anymore, and
that device might be mine.
It might be my ring. That just shows you how tied in to the device we are.
Yeah.
And that doesn't go as far as to say, why do I keep looking at my phone? Gee, maybe somebody liked my post.
Yeah.
That's the fear of being left out. Or if I don't respond to something, Instagram, Snapchat, anything else like that, oh my God, what are my friends going to say? You know, I didn't respond, and you know, God, you know, my daughter put up her engagement pictures, and I didn't see it because I'm not on Facebook. Will she ever forgive me?
I haven't commented on it. I haven't liked it.
Right, and that whole thing. Well, maybe I haven't seen it in the last 2 hours or something. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking about whether or not you can sleep at night after having your eyes imprinted with the glare of your device. We're talking something a little bit more subtle getting into your brain. And there's a lot of research being done as to depression levels in young people, their addiction. And we used to say, oh, you know, they're a couch potato, they're addicted to watching TV, or they're gaming and they're addicted to getting to that next level. This is still sort of the same thing. I am ignoring the people next to me. I am online, and I'm preoccupied by that.
Well, they were talking about, I can't remember what's the chemical that gets released when you feel something good. Anyway,
Chad Duncan.
You get that chemical.
Yes.
You know, just like a hug or whatever, you get that little rush of, ooh, you know.
Yes.
If somebody likes my stuff, or I have 100 likes on it, or whatever. I'm not sure what kind of chemicals might be released in political conversations. It could be different ones.
I mean,
getting politically charged and worked up over something.
Right. Getting PO'd.
But, you know, it's...
But I was thinking when you originally, the phone rang, well, how many times did we not answer the phone when we were home when it was just on the wall?
Oh,
you had to get that.
I mean, people put on answering machines so they could screen their calls.
Yeah.
Right. But that I understand.
Do we have a projector out? No problem. You know, and I just worry about being rewired. Having the prefrontal cortex.
I think it's too late.
I agree with Mike.
I mean, with young people. Us, we're on the edge.
So at what age do people get tablets for their young children with a hardened case? They're sticky fingers in the shopping cart, and
there's people getting them now that's 5 years old.
Yeah, I've seen young children with phones that are hooked up and can dial.
All right.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that. You know, I think you ought to wait till you're high school age, maybe.
Do parents have the right to limit what content can be seen on devices, and at what times of the day and how many hours of the day young people can use their devices?
I would say absolutely, and it's an important job to do.
Okay.
That's
we
me.
don't have disagreements with that.
Well, I agree. We should be monitoring them, but at what point in this world that we're living in now is that somebody going to say, why are you restricting me? I should be free
Johnny
to look
gets to see it.
I should be free to do anything as we are now. We can't talk back to certain people. We can't, you can't judge nothing. You can't do any of this stuff.
Have you been to a social gathering where people said, don't use your cell phones, put your cell phones away?
Right.
It is kind of a
happen?
Well, yeah.
It's notorious. I've been to those. They're like, turn your phone off. Okay. Ring, ring, ring. 5 minutes later into it. Did you not just listen to it?
Watching the Super Bowl, everybody couldn't wait for timeout to check their messages.
Yeah.
When I go on vacation, I'm in the mountains and I don't get service.
Well, there's a difference in having no service.
I don't even worry about it. I get back to the lodge and like, okay, what happened while I've been gone?
People choose their vacation destinations for that. It's forced upon themselves. It's good self-discipline.
So I had this story just a little bit ago, and we're running out of time, by a work colleague, and they were getting ready to go on vacation. Their other half, husband, wife, I'll keep everything neutral. They said, we want to go out here and stay in this cabin in the mountains, and it didn't have internet service. And the other half said, I don't think so. Let's stay in this cabin because we can get internet service, but we'll travel out there during the day. Now,
it's not the hot
that's
tub.
what people
it's
think.
Not the view. It's
people
whether or not it has wireless, has Wi-Fi, and whether it has a satellite TV.
Yeah. People are buying houses because of I can get internet here and I can't get it here.
I would.
Even though this is, I'm going to give you this $1 million house for $1,000, but it has no service of any sort. No internet, no cell phone, no nothing. And this one over here you're going to pay $1 million for, and you'll pay $1 million because it has cell phone service, internet, and everything else. And it's a dump. Mm-hmm. Am I not close?
Yes.
Yes, you're close. And all you have to do is just ask a real estate broker today, what are the common questions?
Yeah.
It used to be the roads, the neighborhood appraised value, school districts, water, electric. Now, internet access.
And cell phone service.
And cable TV's not even in there anymore because satellite's in there. But
right.
I was surprised both my daughters bought places that have sketchy internet.
you should have talked to them.
Hey,
Anyhow.
We're out of time. We can't even bring up another service or topic because we've got to go.
Yeah, well, thanks for watching this February's Tech Talk, and we'll see you in March.